welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Film Club. So, let's talk about some movies. Boo, how are you this fine week?
I'm alright. I'm just, in awe of that stunning opener that we had.
We got a thing going on. I'm trying to find a new voice for the podcast.
Yes. And while you're finding your new voice, Happy New Year, because this is the first week of January.
Yeah, Happy New Year.
We are starting off the new year with a film that we've already talked about, but we're going to talk about it in a different light, because this is a retrospective.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot different. Okay, probably not that much different, but it's going to be, I don't know, easier listening, I guess.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about Scream from 1996. The month of January is going to be all about Scream, from the first movie to the brand new movie coming out in a couple of weeks. And I know that Scream really isn't your franchise.
It's never been my bag. I enjoy them, but I've been like a Friday, a Michael, or a Freddy guy. I'm I'm a classics kind of guy,
And I'm over here, fighting the good fight that Ghostface should be a part of. The slashers, the Michaels, the Freddys, the Jasons.
We've gone over this before. We had a long talk about this in the tier list of slashers.
We have this conversation every few months. It just comes up.
Look, because S tier, it's like Michael Myers.
Yes.
Or Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees. I would even say Leatherface, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Yeah. I think those ones are they're foundational. They're the ones that basically Scream is stealing 90% of its gimmick from.
From Michael, yes.
From Michael. And then, Scream is Ghostface. That's neat. It's cool.
Yeah, but I think it kind of adds to the slasher genre, because we have our S-tier slashers, but over the years, they've evolved from being people into these kind of supernatural
they evolved from being horror movies into comedies.
Yeah, and so with Ghostface, he's always a person. He hasn't transcended into this unkillable being. It's always somebody. It could be your significant other, it could be your neighbor, it could be your friend, and I think that's what kind of makes Ghostface scary, in my opinion, because it could be just about anybody, and there's always a odd reason why they're killing.
I mean, it goes to the fact that it's a scary murder mystery, because that's what the first Scream movie really is. It's a murder mystery.
Yeah,
that's in the guise of a slasher flick.
Yeah, it's not like The Strangers where it's random killings. It's just they're home.
Also, The Strangers suck. Those movies suck ass.
I've only seen the first Strangers movie. That one scared the shit out of me. But
I did not like The Strangers. I thought those movies were actively bad.
I didn't like it because just the prospects of, that could happen. Just someone coming up to your door, oh, hey, I need to use the phone.
Boo. We do not live anywhere near a place where that could happen.
I also don't open my door.
You also don't. You live in a.
You don't need to tell people where I live.
You can go there. It's the one that says, don't scare me on the wall in big red letters.
But yeah, I think that Ghostface is special because could be anybody. The motive always changes, which I like, because it's not just your standard slasher film. It is a mystery.
Yeah.
And you got to figure out who's the killer and why are they killing this time.
But that makes it so convoluted. And I think that's what we're going to get into a lot with the franchise as we go through each one, where because Ghostface isn't the same killer in every movie, and because it always has to be some sort of motive that gets them back to going
the beginning.
Gets them back to the beginning or going after Neve Campbell in some way.
Yeah, because
it gets really convoluted.
Spoiler, if you haven't seen Scream, with Billy, going after Sydney because his dad and her mom were having an affair, it's like, okay, I can understand the anger and why he's doing this. It's like, that makes sense. Stu, being Billy's minion, is like, well, he's just,
Stu ain't that bright.
He's not that bright, he's a goofball, and it's kind of like, hey, your best friend is telling you this? Alright, that sounds cool, I'll go along with you and do this.
Okay, I got beef. Alright?
Okay.
Why is Stu and Billy friends? Why? Because I'm not being weird about this, right? Because they do not seem like the kind of people that would hang out with each other unless their only hobby was killing people.
Yeah, I mean, I think this would have to, like, we'd really have to dive into the story of, oh, they've been friends since elementary school or something like this. It's just, in this universe, they're friends, and it's just, they're both into horror movies, and, it's probably a thing where Billy was like, hey, I bet we could probably pull off the perfect murder. And then you have Stu,
rope.
And Stu's kind of like, yeah, I think so. Let's try it, and let's go after my ex-girlfriend.
That's another thing. How does Billy pitch this to Stu? I know Stu ain't that bright. Stu, he's like, oh, peer pressure, man. I'm like, peer pressure? Was Billy like, yo, dog, like, I need you to hit this, and like passes him a joint? And he's like, all right, I'll hit this. Also, you have to kill somebody for me. He's like, what the fuck? What is the evolution of that conversation?
And then that's when we get into Casey Becker, who is Stu's ex-girlfriend, and it could just be a thing of, well, I dare you to kill your ex. Well, she did dump me, so maybe.
I love that. They're just sitting at like a Denny's, right? And he's like, yo, dare to eat that, dare to do a shot of Tabasco. Oh, I got you. Hey, dare you to snort some maple syrup. All right, I got you. Hey, dare to kill your girlfriend. He's like, fuck yeah, dude, let's go fucking do this shit.
It always comes back to Denny's with you, doesn't it?
It is a place where, philosophers go to discuss things, and also serial killers, but whatever.
And Dean is also an avid Denny's lover, so I think I need to kind of watch my back a little bit.
Look, anybody out there, if you want to give gifts to the podcast, you can always send us Denny's gift cards. I'm down. That's one of those funny things about this movie, because the weird like thought spirals I get into with like every movie I watch is, and that's the good one. How does Billy just pitch this to him? It's really good. It's really good. But it does lead us to Casey Beckard's, death in the beginning of the movie.
And her boyfriend.
Whatever the fuck his name is.
What's his name? I think his name's Steve.
Steve? Oh, she went from Stu to Steve. It's that probably twisted the knife in Stu just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
She upgraded from Matthew Lillard to Matthew Lillard plus.
And then they died, like 5 minutes into the movie.
Yeah, and that was like a big deal when the movie came out, right?
Well, yeah, because she was supposed to be Sydney. And due to, booking, she was kind of like, well, I can't be Sydney for this movie, so why don't we do, kind of the Marion Crane vibe where we think that this is going to be our, final girl, and really she doesn't.
Wait, that's what happened?
Yeah, she signed on for the movie. She was going to be Sydney, and I don't know what movie it was at the time that she had signed on for, but she couldn't, fulfill the time schedule, because it was, I think, a shoot from April to June of 96.
Uh-huh.
She was just like, hey, I can't do this, but I've got this idea. Would you guys run with that? And it
wait, Drew Barrymore brought that shit?
Mm-hmm. She brought that to them, and they were kind of like, you know what, that is kind of genius, because Drew Barrymore is still a big actress, but at the time, you're thinking, this is going to be your leading lady, nothing's going to happen to her. Yeah. So can you imagine the shock of audiences when they went to go see this in the movie theater for the first time, and it's like, okay, we're going to see Drew Barrymore, fight the killer, and it's like, she died. It's just
I always thought that was in the script, like at the beginning.
No. She was slated to be in the entire movie.
Wait, so was the movie supposed to open with Sydney and Billy in the Dawson's Creek scene?
I don't know. I haven't seen any scripts, like original scripts, so I don't know how the movie was supposed to open.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy if true, ladies and gentlemen. But that's kind of lit, because I always thought that was the whole point. Like, oh, they're marketing it like Psycho. They're going to have Drew Barrymore be the star. Everybody's going to be convinced by it, and then they kill him in the first 5 minutes, and everybody's like, what the fuck happened?
No, it was Drew Barrymore's idea of, well, hey, I can't be here, but why don't we throw in a psycho element to it and really surprise our audiences, which, led to Neve Campbell being picked up because Wes Craven saw her in an episode of Party of Five.
Goddamn, Party of Five. When's the last time you heard that shit spoken aloud?
Oof, very long time.
And I don't think I've ever seen Party of Five. What the fuck is that movie?
Neither have I. It's not a movie. It's a TV series.
Oh God, early 90s TV. Jesus
early 90s,
Christ.
And even Neve Campbell was kind of on the fence about being in this movie because she had just done The Craft.
Oh, yeah.
And Skeet Ulrich was also in The Craft with her, so it was kind of this thing of, do I really want to get, lumped into doing the horror movie, kick? And this was one of the best horror movies of the 90s. It really started, that kind of revival in the horror genre.
Yeah, I mean, just speaking about, like, the movie's influence, I guess, I know we're kind of jumping around, but that's the vibe we're going on now. But the movie's influence is undeniable. I mean, good or bad? Yeah. Because can we agree, as film goers, know, that there's a lot of Scream ripoff movies that are absolute garbage.
Oh, yes.
Like, I have a deep dislike of the I Know What You Did Last Summer franchise.
Yeah.
Even the one with Jack Black in it. Even though that one's hilarious. But they are not good movies.
No, they're not.
And I think those ones were written by Kevin Williamson. I actually know this for a fact because I did an episode on this in the before times, in the long, long ago. Where Kevin Williamson, he was the writer for Scream, right? Before that, he was trying to get a script done of I Know What You Did Last Summer, but no one wanted to fucking touch it because they were like, this is weird, I don't like it, whatever, and we'll just throw it away.
Yeah.
And then Scream comes out, and he becomes like the hottest screenwriter in the horror genre, and they buy that fucking script up right away, and they pump it into production, not realizing, no, you kind of need a good director to make these things work.
And I think that's why, I mean, apart from the story being so good for Scream, you also have Wes Craven directing it,
I feel Wes Craven is doing a lot of the heavy lifting
and
here.
It's just like, he's doing a lot of the heavy lifting, but he also had the eye to kind of pick out these characters in the movie that really brought the movie together. Because, I mean, you have Randy, who is kind of like the voice of reason in the movie. We have our two killers, where the whole time you're kind of like, I think you guys are up to something. And just seeing, how crazy they are, in the end, Billy is just off the charts nuts. And, Stu is just like, I'm just here for a good time.
Yeah.
You gotta have a sequel. And it's just, it's just kind of interesting to see how they were able to bring this cast together. And this cast really just knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, no, they did really well. And it is a thing where Skeet Ulrich, I understand, good-looking gentleman. He looks like somebody who eats people. In this movie, Boo, when he's like, hey, Sydney, I was hanging out at my house and I was watching The Exorcist. And I started thinking, it's been a while since we started banging. And I'm like, you look into his eyes, I'm like, that guy eats people. That guy is the Army Hammer of his day.
I mean,
not for real, obviously, but like,
I mean, I don't get cannibal when I look at him. I don't see, but it's like you could tell. It's like there's something not quite right there. And then you have,
I don't want to insult the guy, but he looks kind of fucking creepy in this movie.
No. Yeah, he's got that kind of like, oh yeah, you're a killer. Yeah, but at the same time, he's
over here being like, look, you will not besmirch my first crush, all right? Leave me alone.
Skeet Ulrich is hot. He's still hot till this day. So it's like, I'm not going to say like, ooh, he looks like a total creeper, but can he snap into that, kind of that killer look? Yeah, and I think that's impressive that you
Only reason Boo watches Riverdale is because Skeet Ulrich is still fine. That man aged like a fine wine.
Hey, that's how I got started on Riverdale. I was like, ooh, Skeet Ulrich is in it. I gotta watch it. And then I was like, okay. I'm like, all right, this is a fun show. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. Ooh, it's all this weird teenage banging shit. Ooh, it's like Dawson's Creek all over again.
Never watched Dawson's Creek.
You never watched Dawson's Creek?
No, I know you're a big Vanderbeek fan, and I think we talked about that in our first Scream episode.
We did, because so much of this movie is Halloween by the way of Dawson's Creek. And it's a thing where it's like, Dawson's Creek, that show is bad. But it's one of those like funny bads. Like I can kind of vibe on that show. It's like, look, I've had a couple of beers in me and I kind of want to watch a bad TV show. That's like that vibe.
I mean, it always takes you back to where they're just hanging out in like the quad area where they're just sitting.
It's the opening of Friends. Look at me and tell me that is not a Friends ripoff.
I think Dean wants to have like a chick flick show night where we watch like Riverdale, Dawson's Creek, Friends.
Don't even act like that is not already your watch list tonight. Don't even act like you're not going to do that. You're going to watch that and Total Divas right after.
Ooh, I haven't watched Total Divas in a long time. I got a lot to watch tonight.
but yeah, but that's the thing. Like, that scene where at the fountain when he's jumping in through the window, and I think it's literally playing the Dawson's theme. And
no, that scene where he talks about, I was watching The Exorcist, they're actually playing Don't Fear the Reaper.
That's right. That was another thing. Like, it might be that I have that fucking Mandela effect going on, because I remember it being like this really like sweet, like, oh, it's like a romantics like score there, but it's Don't Fear the Reaper. I watched that.
Yeah.
Like, whenever I had to watch this for the show, and I was like, wait a minute. I stopped the movie. I found that scene on YouTube because I'm like, no, the music's wrong. Why is it like Don't Fear the Reaper?
Because the music's right.
I swear to God, I just formed the different memory in my head all those years ago.
Because it's always about Dawson's Creek to you,
I'm
and this is a
sorry.
horror movie.
James Van De Beek's, my boy. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so James, if you're listening, can you please send Dean your autograph because he loves you so much.
Oh, God.
He's part of the Beak Club, come on. So, so we have, another tie into Halloween because we have Don't Fear the Reaper. That's played in Halloween. We get Halloween at least brought into the movie 3 times. We have it brought in with Casey Becker in the beginning. She talks about that being her favorite scary movie. We have Don't Fear the Reaper. And then at the end of the movie, at the house where everything happens, that's what all the kids are watching. They're watching Halloween until they find out that Principal... What is
Principal Fonzie.
Yes, I was going to say that, and I'm like, it's not right, but yeah. Fonzie bites the big one.
Yeah.
And all the kids take off, and Randy's like, well, I'm going to sit here and watch Halloween, because why not? We've got a curfew, there's killers on the loose. I'm going to watch Michael Myers, which, hell yeah, I agree with.
Yeah, also, there's way more references to Halloween in this movie. That is 90% of this movie. This movie is it's super meta, and it's being like, oh, we're gonna point out all the flaws in horror movies.
Yeah.
And we're gonna use, Halloween as, our template, right?
Yeah.
But it's a thing where it's like, hey, we're gonna point out that this trope is a thing in horror movies, and then we're gonna do that trope.
Dean loves tropes.
Yeah, but it's also kind of fucking weird. You got look when she's like, yo, I don't understand why the big titty girl is running, up the stairs instead of out the front door. And then they're like, okay, now we're gonna set it up so she has to be the big titty girl running up the stairs instead of out the front door.
That's what's hilarious. But it also, feeds into the fight or flight mode where, okay, Sydney does the right thing. She's gonna run out of the house instead of fighting back. And she can't get the chain off of the door. So it's like, well, I know I just said this thing where the big-titted girl goes running up the stairs, and it's like, well, shit, I have to go running up the stairs, kind of go with that trope, but at the same time she goes up the stairs, and she calls the police. Not like other movies where...
No, she doesn't call the police. She
emails.
Emails? Also, she emailed the police. I didn't know that was a real thing. I thought that was a joke.
I don't know if that's real or not. I was only so.
Did she direct message them?
I don't know.
This is early 90s.
This is early 90s. Technology was a different beast back then, so I don't know if that was a thing.
Also, the phone's off the hook.
Yeah.
This is the early 90s. They're on fucking dial-up.
Yeah.
That message is not going through the police.
I remember dial-up.
I remember dial-up as well. You ever try to type something, or you're using the internet and you pick up the phone and it sounds like a banshee's wail?
Yeah.
Or your internet just drops off completely?
Yeah.
Those are the good days. Days.
Those were.
But yeah, back to Scream.
Yes.
The opening of this movie is really good because oh, Casey Becker murdered, psycho reference. Then we go into Dawson's Creek, and then we go into it's oh, they're at the school, and it's they're all at the fountain, right? And it's friends, and then it's oh, now Sydney's being attacked by the killer, and it's the phones, and then it's oh, Billy shows up, and he looks like a fucking psychopath. He does. I'm sorry. He looks like a psychopath.
And I think you're missing one of the biggest Easter eggs in this movie. Apart from
the fucking 15-pound cell phone brick Skeet Ulrich drops in the bedroom.
Yeah, we also get Linda Blair in this movie.
Wait. We get the Exorcist girl in this movie?
Yes, we do. When they go back to school after Casey Becker's been murdered, and it's this whole melee with all the reporters.
Is she one of the reporters?
She's one of the reporters.
With Gale Weathers.
Yeah, Gale Weathers is there. Your other tie to Friends, because you are on a Friends kick right now.
I don't think I have ever watched a single episodes of Friends to completion.
I highly recommend it. It's a good show.
You have watched the entirety of Friends.
Over and over. Yes, I have.
So, I'm pointing this out because I know nothing except the opening sequence, right? Because that's usually all I can get through before I change the channel.
Which is why you should watch Friends, so you can see the contrast and see what's going on. Because Courtney Cox, who plays Gale Weathers, approached Wes Craven and was like, I want to be part of this movie. They were kind of like, well, we know you as Monica, and Monica's, the nice girl in Friends. And she's like, no, I want to be a bitch. I want to show that I have,
range.
I have range. And Yeah, that's who we get, from Gail. Gail's just like, well, yeah, I know your mom died last year, and, someone was bound to write a book about it, so I should be the first one to do it. Like, no hard feelings, I'm just trying to, get my name out there.
Gail being kind of a bitch over here.
She's a determined bitch in this movie.
She's a determined bitch?
She's determined. She's gonna, make her show popular. And, I mean, we see the range.
Get knocked out by a high schooler.
Yeah, I mean, Sydney got a good right cross. She took her down.
Yeah, it was good. Like, Sydney got a definitely a career in, women's boxing after this. Like,
hey,
maybe her and Jake Paul could, like, throw a couple of rounds together.
My money's on Nev Campbell every time.
She's probably a foot taller than Jake Paul anyway.
Probably.
I actually have no idea how tall. I think he's, like, as tall as I am.
I don't know. I mean, I don't care about Logan or Jake Paul. But,
we're talking about their Game Boy table a minute ago.
I was very upset because those poor Game Boys, but it looked kind of fire, though. Anyway.
Back to the movie.
Back to the movie. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see how the characters have spanned over the course of, now it's going to be 5 movies.
Yeah.
But since we haven't seen the 5th movie yet, over the 4 movies, because, at this point, they're kind of strangers to each other. Gail doesn't know Sydney, she doesn't know Dewey, and it's just kind of interesting to see the foundation that's, been put in place because of this movie, not only because they're survivors, but they end up being close friends throughout the rest of the franchise.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing where a lot of this is really dependent on, do you like the main characters?
Yeah.
Because it's like, Sydney, she's supposed to be, like, kind of the, she's the American teenager, right? But she's like, she's smarter than, the average slasher heroine. She's a little bit more, like, confident. She's able to, like, do things without, flumming some up or some shit.
She's not the kind of girl in some of these horror movies where she just screams the entire time, or
screams, runaways, hides, and
it's
gets
like
the upper hand in the last 10 minutes.
It's like, she's smart. She knows when she needs to get out. She's been able to fight back, and you're able to tell kind of when she's fighting with Stu, because Stu, when you see the two killers in different aspects, you could tell which is Billy and which is Stu. And Stu is the one that takes a lot of the falls and the hits with, like, doors and everything.
He's the one doing the comics shit.
Yeah, so you're able to see that she's kind of, like, able to outwit them. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, when we get to the end of the movie, she's able to outsmart the two of them. She's, hidden in Stu's house, and it's just kind of like...
Also, what the fuck does Stu's parents do? Because that place is a manor.
I mean, his house, Sydney's house... It's these beautiful homes, and it's just like, what do the parents do, and where do they go? Because, I mean, Sydney's dad leaves on a business trip. Yeah,
business trip, and then Billy and Stu kidnap him, and then keep him, like, in Stu's basement. Well, okay, I'm going down the spiral again, the rabbit hole. Alright, so, Billy and Stu, we'll say... For the sake of argument, they were at the Denny's and, the dare up, right?
Yes.
And then Stu's like, all right, we killed him. And then Bill's like, all right, I dare you to go kidnap Sydney's dad and we're going to keep him trapped in your basement. Also, we're going to do it until your parents come back from wherever the fuck. So, they kidnap him, keep him under there. They have to be, like, feeding him, right? And, like, taking some amount of care of him because they're going to frame him for these murders.
I mean, I'm just trying to kind of... I think that was the... one thing in the first, episode that we did of this was trying to figure out the timeline. It's like, are we going off of days? I think it's like the span of 3 days, because we have Casey's murder, we have them the next day at school, and I think that's when the curfew goes in effect.
Yeah, that's when they're just like, all right, curfew goes into effect, but we have a night in between there, because that's when Sydney gets attacked, when she's by herself. And that's when she goes to the place, knocks out Gail, and then we have another day at school.
And then that's when...
And then that's the party. So, I guess it has to be 2 or 3 days?
2 or 3 days. So, Billy is there, at the house because, I saw The Exorcist and blah, blah, blah. So, was Stu kidnapping Sydney's dad as he was distracting her in the bedroom?
Actually, now that you put it like that, that is probably what happened. Billy's up there. That's probably why he showed up.
Yeah.
He showed up distracting Sydney, and then Stu bum rushes and kidnaps Sydney's dad.
Yeah, because, Matthew Lillard is very tall. So it's just
I get he's tall, but also Sydney's dad looks like a giant in this movie. in the beginning, when he pokes his head through the door, he's like, Sydney, and he's like 1.5 feet taller than Nev Campbell. The guy's a mountain. But
I'm just saying, kind of makes sense. He sent, the tall guy in to kidnap
Billy
the dad.
was like, I need plausible deniability. It's like, Billy's probably like, I don't think I could take Sydney's dad, like, one-on-one. So I'm gonna send Stu after him, because if Sydney's dad knocks his ass out, I could definitely say Stu is the killer, and I can get away.
Yeah.
They're keeping him in the basement, so they gotta be feeding him. Does he have a poop bucket down there? How is he using the bathroom? Because he's tied up.
You're forgetting, this is a movie. Movies, people just don't go to the bathroom.
Look, that is something I've noticed in all these movies. I think I was talking to Randy for the Film Odyssey.
Yeah, I would say not Randy Meeks.
No,
not Jamie Kennedy, yes.
My brother. We do another podcast called The Film Odyssey. Go watch it. Send me presents. But
don't send him presents.
We were watching it, and we were watching Pulp Fiction, right? Yeah. And in that movie, it's like a point that John Travolta's character goes to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Like, a lot. He's like, I'm gonna go take a piss, or whatever. It's like what he says to, like, leave a scene.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's like, oh, he's in the bathroom, like, washing his hands, and he's trying to, like, talk to himself. Or he's in the bathroom and he gets killed by Bruce Willis. Life happens. And I was thinking about it, and I asked him, like, straight up, I'm like, how many movies do you see where people go into the bathroom? To, like, actually use the bathroom, and it's not, like, for a dialogue, where they're like, oh, they run to the bathroom and they, like, talk to somebody.
Yeah.
But they go in and, like, use the bathroom. And he was like, there's gotta be one. Like, just give me a minute. He sat there, and I cut out, like, 10 minutes of him just, like, hard thinking, trying to think of a single movie where he's like, do we ever see anybody go in to take a piss in a movie? Where it's just a piss. Like, they're going in there, and it's just like, oh, they're using the bathroom.
Yeah.
And, like, leave. There's no bathroom scene.
White chicks. There's a whole bathroom scene.
You got one. All right.
I got one. I didn't have to,
I like how you brought up the masterpiece, the master stroke of the Wayans brothers, known as White Chicks.
Hey, he has dairy, doesn't know he's eating dairy, and then bathroom is essential. So, yeah.
We could probably get a lot of bathroom scenes if we go for raunchy 2000s comedies.
Pretty much, yeah.
But that's like the thing, that, again, the thought spiral is, they have him tied up in the basement.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, we're going to frame him for these murders. And I'm like, how are you going to explain? It's like, yeah, he must have been murdering people where his pants are filled with piss and shit because he's obviously been tied up for days.
Well, yeah, and that's
confined.
That's what the point they make is, his hands have been bound. It's like, it's going to show that he's been tied up. It's going to be clear to the police when they're investigating. Hey, this guy, he's a little on the weak side, because they're going to run toxicology and all of that stuff. Oh, hey, look, he's got marks on his wrists, like his hands have been taped up together for days.
Also, we went into your basement, and it looks like somebody's been, like, tied up and living in there for a couple of days, Billy.
Mm-hmm.
And Stu. Also, like, that's the thing, like, their plan is so shit.
Yeah,
it is so shit.
Because they're teenagers. They're not really thinking, all the way through. Yeah, they keep you going through the movie because it's just, holy crap, who is doing this? Why are they doing it? And then it's like, holy crap, it's two people doing this. It's not just one killer that's out there on the loose, which I think was, kind of genius in doing this movie, was that it's not the one killer, you've got two killers on the loose.
Well, the thing is doing two killers, it's the only plausible way to make the kills work.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know how, like, a lot of slasher movies, it looks like, Jason's walking at you and then he just appears around the corner. And in this, it's like, how is it, like, the Ghostface guy is able to, like, call them and then just jump out while he's inside the house? They weren't able to hear him. It's because, whoever's on the phone is, like, probably next door.
Yeah.
Or, like, watching through, like, some fucking bushes. And then the actual guy who's doing the killing is like, I'm going in. One person plays distraction, the other one, makes the play. And man, their methodology, like, they got this. And having two killers is a really, like, good way to gloss over serial killers are magic.
Yeah.
But then it's like their fucking plan is shit. Like, Billy has motive.
Yeah.
He has motive. I can, sure, got it, cool, whatever. Stu,
peer
again,
pressure.
that double dog dare at Denny's really got to him. He can't turn it down.
After hanging out at the crick.
Yes, after hanging out at the crick. And, yeah. And after that, then it's like, so Sydney's mom's been dead for like a year. Billy killed her, right?
Yes.
So Billy killed her, and he's like, I've been planning this for a year. I'm gonna get back at at you because of your mom, blah, blah, blah. And he couldn't have come up with something better than, I'm gonna kidnap your dad, blame it all on him, because he'll have motive, right? He'll snap. But I'm gonna do it in a way that's gonna make it very obvious that there's no way he could have done it physically. It would have been easier if he just blamed it all on Stu. Actually, that probably should have been his real thing. Actually, wait a goddamn minute.
Oh god, Dean is really far in the rabbit hole right now.
I know, but I think I see a light at the end of the tunnel. That's probably why Billy stabbed the shit out of Stu. I think Billy, at the end, he knew he couldn't get away with blaming it on Sydney's dad. He was gonna just, like, dress Stu up as, and he's like, oh, we struggled for the knife, and I stabbed him, and I found out it was Stu. He probably was just gonna blame it all on fucking Stu.
But then it would have, it would have fallen apart again, because even if he dressed him in the Ghostface costume, there's gonna be no incision holes from the knife, because they're stabbing each other plain clothes.
Or here's the thing. Maybe he's like, yeah, Stu, tried to stab me, and blah, blah, blah. And so he kills him, and then they're gonna be like, oh, shucks, now where is everything? Oh, the Ghostface costume is in Stu's hall closet. With this ominously sharp umbrella that comes up at the end of the movie. But
you're gonna set that beard on fire if you stroke it any harder.
Hey, it's gonna happen.
But a big conspiracy that everyone has been talking about, and even I've kind of fallen into that rabbit hole too, when we see Stu die, when Sydney knocks the TV onto his face.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have said, well, yeah, you could get hit by a TV, but it's not necessarily going to kill you. So, but the TV also wasn't that big, so a lot of people are speculating he could have crawled out from under the TV and just been gone the entire time. But then it turns
that would
into...
have been so much bullshit.
But then it turns into, well, it would have been a known thing throughout the rest of the movies that Stu's body wasn't there. He's missing or on the run.
It would have been a thing where, look, like, this is a retrospective on the first movie.
Yes.
And this is a thought logic hole. And I know now we're talking about, like, this in context of the wider franchise.
Yes.
And in the wider franchise, if I find out, if I go into Scream 5, look me in the eyes when I say this, if I go into Scream 5 and it turns out Matthew Lillard is the killer, I'm gonna punch a bitch. I'm gonna be so mad. I'll be like, you mean to tell me we could have Matthew Lillard in Scream 2, Scream 3, Scream 4, and he ain't in that shit? I'll be mad. We need Shaggy in more movies.
So I should wear my helmet when I go see Scream 5, so in case you punch me, I'm a little protected.
I'm not gonna punch you, obviously. I'm gonna punch that bitch, Gail Weathers. In her book writing face. But
I think Gail could take you.
Probably. Courtney Cox, she looks like she can, throw some hands. But, like, that's my thing. It's like, that would be the biggest, like, fuck you retcon ever.
I mean, that's what they keep saying, that Scream 5 is super meta, and I'm like, oh my god.
Look, it's gonna
What happens if he survived?
If...
Because it can't be Skeet, because, I mean, he was stabbed in the chest twice. Oh, no, he was stabbed multiple times. She stabbed him with the umbrella twice, and then she shot him in the forehead.
Yeah, shot him square in the fucking forehead. You don't... Boo. When one of the wounds is he was shot square in the forehead, every other wound is superfluous.
Oh, no, I mean, you should see some of the conspiracies that I'm seeing in, like, one of the, like, the Scream groups that I follow. I mean, there's one where people are saying that, like, Jill from Scream 4 has come back from the gates of hell and brought, all those killers back in the past. I'm like, no, this is not how Scream 5 is gonna be. No. It's just like...
Look, like, here, like... it's one of those things where it's like, the first movie, the movie as it is very good. And it is actually, like, really entertaining. And it's like, oh, it actually is, like, really clever. But then... Ooh, but that's kind of why I'm really excited to have, like, a whole month to, like, go down this rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Because it's like, the movies just go in weird places.
Oh, yeah.
I think everything after, like, Scream 2 is like, almost, like, I would say, like, objectively can get, or, like, kind of bad. I think Scream 3 is objectively a bad movie. I can spoil that one.
Yeah, I
I
mean...
even say, like, Scream 4 is not a very good movie.
I really like Scream 4. I kind of have it higher up on my list. I think that's something we should do for... After we see Scream 5, I think we should kind of rank them in our opinions and see kind of where the movies land.
Yeah, I would agree with that, because it's one of those things where, like, I think the number one spot at this point is very predictable.
Yeah.
But it's everything else is kind of funky, because I do have to admit, other than the first Scream movie, the one we're talking about right now, I have not seen a single other Scream movie in, like, 10 years.
Oh, no, I watch them often, so it's like
it's like your favorite, like, horror franchise, right?
Yeah, with Halloween, it's like my favorite horror franchise, but the first movie... Because, yeah, I agree with you. They take crazy turns once we get towards the sequel movies. But this movie is just... It's a very simple story. You know, once you understand why he's doing this, it's like, okay, he's pissed off that because his dad had an affair with her mom, his mom hightailed it out of there.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you know, I can understand that. But at the same time, it's like, so because your dad had an affair and your mom left the two of you, you're gonna go on a killing spree and kill, you know, people that you go to school with, just people in your town, your girlfriend. It's just like...
Billy is not a well boy.
No, and I mean, we see that, because you're able to see it throughout the movie. You could tell that there's something not quite right about Billy. And Sydney's able to tell that too. And it's, you know, once that...
I don't think Sydney can tell that.
No, she's able to tell that there's something... not quite right.
I mean, they're still, you know...
Yeah, they do, and she breaks the cardinal rule, which, you know, once...
She gets that Skeet Ulrich cock, you know.
She does, and, you know, to go with the tropes, you know, no sex, no drugs, no, you know, drinking, it kind of, you know, makes you think, well, shit, you know, she broke one of the rules... She might not survive it. If Drew Barrymore didn't survive the beginning of the movie...
Why is the girl from The Craft going to survive it?
Exactly. It's like, you know, there might not be any final girl in this movie. And it's just like, no, she's able to outsmart them. And that's when we see, you know, Billy really lose his shit when he starts destroying Stu's house. He's stabbing the cushions.
That is...
I mean, he hits him in the back of the head with the phone.
Okay.
Which was not scripted. He just...
That is like the famous thing about that. He's like, give me the phone, dick. The ending of this movie, like the climax of this movie, it's like probably one of the best parts of the whole franchise, just because it's like, okay, Sydney gets you know, the leg up. She's able to outsmart these guys. Billy and Stu are now revealed to be the total incompetent dumbasses that they are. And
it kind of turns into Home Alone, where
a little bit.
She's loose in the house and the two, you know, the killers are after her, and she's just like, no, I'm gonna hide in this closet. No, stab you with an umbrella, and so I'm gonna take you guys out. And it's just like, fuck yeah, you know, you have these two guys that have been terrorizing this small town, and you have your final girl that's like, you know what, I'm gonna take care of business and put these two guys down.
Girl power.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's one of those things where like, this is just a really good movie.
It's a good movie. I mean, I'm still, you know, in awe that climax of the movie took 20 days to film. 20 nights.
Wait, the climax?
Yeah,
do you mean like the party and everything?
Yeah, the party and the climax of the movie where, you know, people are being shot and stabbed. That took I think that took 20 days or 20 nights for them to film. And then their cinematographer ended up being fired a week before principal photography was finished. Because I think, Wes Craven was going back through the footage, and they noticed that some of the footage was blurry and out of focus.
Yeah, you would get fired for that shit.
And he was just like, you know, you're not going to fire me because that means you have to fire, you know, the rest of the...
He has to fire the whole camera crew.
And they did.
Yeah.
That's
a thing that people don't realize. Like, when you hire a cinematographer, usually you're hiring an entire, like camera crew.
Yeah, a team.
Yeah, so it's like, that's why it's usually really hard to fire people, like, in those kind of positions, because when you fire them, you're firing, like, 12 fucking people.
Yeah. And which they did, because, yeah, you know, you have this, you know, well, at the time, I don't know if they thought this movie was going to be as big as it was when it hit the theaters.
I don't think so. Most people didn't have a lot of faith in this movie. I know that much. Everybody thought it was a comedy at first, and that's why everybody passed on it. And then Wes Craven came on, and he was almost given like carte blanche to do it, because they're like, okay, it's our horror movie. We're just gonna dump it whenever.
Well, that, and when they also released it, I think it only hit 1,400 theaters.
Mm-hmm.
And they did another release in 97, like maybe April or May, early in the year. And that's when, the rest of the cash kind of just flew in, because in December when it dropped, it was massive whatever lucky theaters got it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's, even if they weren't anticipating it to be this blockbuster movie, you still don't want to have a movie where everything is perfect and in focus, and then, the last, the climax of your movie
looks like dog shit.
Yeah, so he was surprised they all got fired, and, I mean, this new guy came in and was able to do it in under a week and finish the movie, and it was just, 20 days to film, tons and tons of blood, and then you have, some of it's out of focus. And it's just I would not want to be that cinematographer that,
would you, if you were Wes Craven, you'd probably strangle somebody, right?
Oh, definitely. I mean, as a photographer, it's already, you have to really, really focus and look and make sure that everything is clear and focused, ready to go. Otherwise, you screw up the whole shoot. So it's just what were you doing that you weren't, looking at it and, oh yeah, that doesn't quite look right. That's kind of fuzzy. I'm gonna say that's my artistic choice. No, you're gonna ruin the movie.
He's looking at it. He's like, "No, it looks fine to me." Says through Coke bottle thick glasses. But neither here nor there. Actually, that is kind of here, because we're here talking about this movie,
and we're also talking about the climax of the movie.
Yeah, which is a really good climax.
Yeah, because, I mean, there's so many different elements to it, because you have the party, and then you have the news crew, and it's just interesting to see how...
What was Gail hoping to get by spying on a, high school party?
I think she was just trying to get the killer in action, because it was just...
So Gail was like, yo, got a bunch of teens here. They're all gonna get blasted. I'm not gonna tell the cops, though, but I am gonna watch, so I might be able to get an exclusive of, a snuff film.
Whatever it takes, I guess.
Man, Gail's a bitch.
So,
fuck Gail Weathers.
And I think it was unique storytelling-wise that there's a 30-second delay in the camera that she sets up.
It that does do a lot to set tension.
Because we see Randy is about to be killed when he's laying on the couch finishing Halloween. Mm-hmm. Then something distracts him and the killer takes off, and it's well, where did he go? And then that's when you get the cameraman, getting God across the throat, and it's just okay, so that sets up one of the killers being outside to chase, whoever is outside, leaving Billy wherever he needs to get to in the house to set up for the next series of kills. Mm-hmm. So I just think, it's smart on their part, kind of just, well, yeah, why don't we do something as simple as a 30-second delay? It's just kind of thinking outside of the box.
Yeah, that's probably the good way to look at it. It's a really smart and simple way to get through a lot of those, narrative device things going on. And it's also another thing where it's having two killers. It makes the movie make way more sense.
Yeah, and because we see in that scene, because, that's when Gail, she takes off in the news van and she crashes into the ravine. And then you have Randy running after Sydney into the house, and she's kind of well, maybe you're the killer. And then Stu comes from, where the news van would have gone off into the ravine, and he's running behind. And
he's also pouring sweat. You can
sweating.
Tell he ran a fucking mile.
So it's okay, it's we have that killer. Now we know which one of the two killers was out there, doing the whole thing with the keys and,
okay. We can just cut to the chase. You just want to know who the killer was for every scene.
Oh, there's videos where people have figured it out.
So we know definitively now.
More or less, yeah.
Because that was a thing when we did this the first time. You were like, look, I want at least 45 minutes to talk about why each one is the killer and how there's the hand theory and all this other stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was a whole thing, too, about how the kills were done and, who holds the knife in a certain way. And it's like, yeah, you know, once you watch the movie more than once, you could see those subtle differences, but first viewing of this, it's just, oh my god, this guy is coming out of every single door. How does he do this?
Now that we have probably sufficiently spoiled the hell out of this movie.
Yes.
Spoiler alerts, since we'll do it at some point in this video. I guess, you know, final thoughts on the movie. I guess where it sits in the canon of the series. You know, it's the first one of the series. Basically, this is the movie that all the other ones kind of feed off of, and it's the setup, and payoff for all of them from here on out. Yeah. But this movie standing on its own. Thoughts?
I mean, this one takes the throne.
Takes the throne.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always excited for a new Scream movie, but the first one is always going to be at the top.
Yeah, I mean, the first one I think is the most well made, and I think a lot of that goes to Wes Craven.
Yeah,
because I think was the fourth one directed by Wes Craven, or that was the first one he didn't direct? Was that before or after he passed?
No, I think he was a part of the fourth. The fifth one is the one where he obviously isn't a part of because he passed away, I think, right after 4.
I think so, yeah.
But from interviews and articles that I've read, they've really tried to keep it like in Wes's wheelhouse. They're trying to make sure that they pay homage to him. So hopefully Scream 5 is amazing and feels like Wes Craven had his hand in it, even though he's not here with us anymore.
Yeah. But that's my thing. Like, Wes Craven, like, watching this film and watching, you know, Hills Have Eyes, or Last House on the Left, or Nightmare on Elm Street, like, I can see it's like, oh, he has a style. He has, like, a way he, like, makes the movies. He has a way he likes to frame things. He has a way to, like, tell stories. Mm-hmm. And I think his direction in this one particular is, like, the strongest part.
Yeah.
Whereas the script, I'm like, if this was given to anybody else, this would have been a worse movie.
Yeah, and I think it also helped that the script, when it was being written, it was also partially about the Gainesville Ripper from Florida, who was killing college students at the time. So it wasn't just like, you know, oh, well, I have this idea about, you know, these teenage murderers. It was like, no, you know, Kevin Williamson took something from the news that kind of freaked him out. And it was like, hey, how can we elaborate this story into something that kind of feels tied to reality? Because the Gainesville Ripper, when they were kind of doing their interviews with him, he wanted to be like Ted Bundy, where he was famous.
Oh, yeah, he was that guy?
Yeah, he was that guy. So that's how it kind of ties into Scream the movie, because they want to be the famous survivors. They were the ones that took down the murderer, when in reality, they are the murderers.
Nah, Billy wanted to be the survivor. You know, Billy was gonna throw Stu underneath the fucking bus.
I mean, in the beginning of the scene, you think, you know, okay, they're bros. They're not gonna do anything. But once they get into that stabbing game of, you know, we gotta make it look real, and it's just like, you know what, you kind of stabbed me a little hard. I'm gonna stab you harder in 2 times. And it's just like, it's like, wait, are you trying to throw him under the bus, or is this just turning into a pissing contest of, you know, ouch, that hurt, now I'm gonna really make you hurt?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes for both. I'm just going with this. I think this is a really good movie. I would recommend it to anybody.
Yeah, and I mean, it's really slated its place in pop culture too. Because
I think Ghostface has cemented himself as being part of at least the horror community pop culture echelon.
Yeah, because I mean, I've seen the programs, the Scream programs from MTV. I don't know if you've seen them.
No, actually. All right, tangent, super quick. I swear it'll be fast. I watched the entirety of the first 2 seasons or the first season of the MTV Scream series in a night. Yeah. I think it was the whole first season.
Yeah, it wasn't that long. It was easy to kind of burn through it.
Well, the thing is, I binge watched the whole thing because I'm like, oh, Scream? Cool, because I thought it was the fucking movie. And then it opened and I'm like, oh no, this is something else. All right, whatever, I'll watch it. Yeah, cool. And I binge watched the whole thing and I'm like, man, this show is so fucking cringy, but god damn it, I watched the whole thing.
Yeah.
And Yeah, no, that show is max level cringe. Like
Yeah.
it hurt my body. But I watched it was the Dawson's Creek thing. It's like I couldn't look away.
He loves his Dawson's Creek.
God, I don't even remember if I've ever watched Dawson's Creek. Dawson's Creek in my mind might be an amalgamation of bullshit references I've seen in my life, and that's what I think Dawson's Creek is.
But just to kind of, throw it, it's been turned into a show. It's not the Scream that we know from the movies. It's its own kind of mutation into this new story. And yeah, I ended up watching both seasons. At least every Halloween since Scream has come out, there has been Ghostface Costumes.
Yeah.
That was a big thing that I remember from elementary school. I think before I even watched the movie was that I saw kids dressed as Ghostface. And then remembering how the costume evolved into the ghost face that would bleed from the mask.
I remember that.
And it had, like the little heart thing that would squeeze the blood into the mask. And it's just...
that goofy Halloween... Like, honestly, I think Ghostface has survived so long.
Yeah.
Because that costume is so easy. And it's so cheap.
So easy, so cheap. It's, thank you to Wes Craven, who fought to have that costume be Ghostface, because the studio was like, well, just have, our people here design something for you, and he just went with his gut and was like, that's it.
Didn't they find it at like a thrift stop or something? They
found it at a store, and it belonged to, I think it was like Wizards costume company, and finally he just told me, you know what, every design that they're coming with is not my vision. This is my vision, and he just, he called them and was like, hey, could we use this for our movie? And they gave them the okay, and it was just like this costume that was just kind of like...
They were probably like, you mean the one we were selling for like $15? And you're gonna get paid us how much to put in the movie? Oh, fuck yeah, dude. Yeah, we'll deliver the papers right now.
Yeah, and it's still a very popular thing, and it's like, I think it's cool that, 25 years later, Scream is still very, very much tied to pop culture.
And that's why we're gonna be talking about it for the rest of this month.
Rest of January, all Scream.
And that's why next week we're talking about Scream 2, but if they wanted to listen to that, where can they go?
Well, if you want to listen to us on a different platform than you currently are, you can find us on Anchor FM, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and we're also on YouTube.
Yeah, you can go to our YouTube channel, In the Frame. That's right, In the Frame at youtube.com. Yeah, go and check out our videos. We have a bunch of podcast videos on there. It's a lot of fun. And leave comments and shit. Maybe we'll respond.
We probably will.
Probably.
We got time on our hands to respond.
Yeah. But yeah, Boo. So, any last words?
We all go a little mad sometimes.
So cringe.
Don't care. We're talking about Scream 2 next week. See you next week at the Film Club.
Have a good week, everybody.